All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Playing to Win podcast series. I'm joined today with a very interesting guest. I'm actually super stoked to talk to you, Duane, because I've mentioned a few times on my channel my interest in about 8 to 10 years down the road, just packing up most of my life and living on a yacht down in the Caribbean or somewhere nice. I mean, the Mediterranean sounds nice to me. You're in the Mediterranean right now. We met through Instagram. So, lo and behold, these social media platforms can be great for stuff like this. And you messaged me and you said, hey, Rich, love your talks, good stuff. Don't know if you're interested, but I'm a survivor of the California divorce process at 53, walked out with zero. Just before was a thriving multimillionaire. I rebuilt over 5 years and then sold out, bought a one-way ticket to Turkey and bought a beautiful sailboat, which I've been touring the EU on for the last 3 years. Learned so much. And then you offered to have a conversation. So here we are today. Duane, welcome, man. How you doing?
Wow, Rich, thanks. I really appreciate you having me on your show because I see a lot of your videos and I've gleaned so much from how you approach the new attitude of being male and also just surviving in this crazy world. And so thank you. And
Yeah. Let me
I'm
get you to kind of like frame the backstory, because I've had the opportunity to listen to a few of the podcasts that you linked for me, which sounded basically like your audio recordings telling a story, almost like a journal. I've
yeah.
watched a few of the videos on your YouTube channel. It's a small channel, but nonetheless, I wanted to see what you're all about, and I always want to check out potential guests to make sure that they're legit. So, can you give the guys a background on what I mean, lead up to what got you to the sailboat in the Mediterranean right now? Because you were quite successful. You lived in California in a nice area of,
Yeah.
town sort of thing. Had a
Well,
family, a wife. What all
yeah.
happened?
Okay. I had a very definite plan growing up, and I was raised in a very strong family in Southern California, builders, and and I learned these trades very young. From the time I was 12. I was 15. I built my first house, of course, with a lot of supervision of my dad and my uncles. It was very family oriented, it, and then I went to college, and way back then I had an interest in surfing and sailing. I just was maniacal over water, and so
Mhm.
that's what I got through high school, is doing fun stuff like that. And then when I got out of college as an engineer in my mid 20s, I traveled to Asia. I had a job for a bit in Indonesia as an engineer, and then I traveled around Australia, and I got to cruise for a little while. I jumped on other people's boats,
Yeah,
and
I heard that part where you basically were pacing like the
yeah,
marina and just looking for somebody that was looking for crew. How old were
yeah,
you at that time?
I was 25, 20,
And
24, 25, 26. I was gone for 3 years.
and you would just randomly like chat up people with
Oh,
sailboats and say, hey,
absolutely.
I'm in the area. Do you need crew?
Yeah, and that was par for the course back then. And now it's different because there's all kinds of websites that you could connect, crewing and boats connect. So it's called
Oh, is that
Crew
right?
Bay, and there's Find a Crew. Oh yeah, there's a lot of them. I use them all the time. I'm going to move just a little bit because I'm shifting around.
So
Sorry about that. And
So
so
if you're
you
on
were
a
saying,
passage where you need crew, you can actually go to a website and say, "Hey, look, I've
oh
got
yeah,
room for two guys. I'm traveling from here to here," and then you can basically source them out that way.
yeah. In fact, it's too bad this thing's not more live. I know it's probably people are going to be seeing this a little bit after, but like
Well, I'm actually going to
tomorrow.
have this as a premiere, so I'll be in the live chat when people are watching this, being able to answer the questions. I'll give you the time and date in case you're available and you're not on a passage, so that maybe you can join in too.
Okay, well, like tomorrow, today is whatever the 15th, 14th
Or the
of
14th of
December,
December. Yeah.
and tomorrow hope I get a couple waiting on a couple more repair items for the boat. But as soon as I get those, I've taken off for the Canaries. It's about a 10 day, 7 to 10 day passage, and I don't have any crew at the moment.
Okay.
And I put an ad on Crew Bay, is the one I use, and it's free for other people to sign up, or you can pay $5 a month or something and get the premium version. It's very cheap, and it's very valuable. I mean, it's a great platform, and I got a lot of crew from that, so that's one thing.
Hmm.
And
Sorry, I just
anyway,
want to take you back to the Australia thing when
so
you're in your 20s.
yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, I'm 24 and I'm walking up and down pontoons, and I get on boats, and I ended up on one guy's boat, and we cruised the Great Barrier Reef, and
Mm.
I'd met this girl in a hostel, Ingrid, and I asked her, "Hey, you want to hitchhike with me up the coast and do this?" She said, "Yeah, let's go." So go, and we ended up on this boat for months. Some guy, Serge Sokolowski was his name, from Russian defector, and he
Mm.
had a trimaran. We pay him $10 a day or something plus food, and just float around. And I'd skin dive, and I said, "Sir, how long can you do this?" And he said, "Long as you want." I said, "What's the cost?" He goes, "It's nothing.
Mm.
Like, you just own the boat and you can anchor it." He goes, "Yeah, like you can do this all over the world. It's amazing." Now I go into marinas a lot, like maybe 4 days a month, 5 days a month, just for repairs, for waters. I do have a water maker, but it takes a lot of energy to make water. So if I can get it from there, but like starting next week, I'm going to be anchored for months off of an island in the eastern Atlantic, and I just surf a couple times a day.
Mm.
And there's no services there. There's nothing. It's just a big volcano, rocky island, and there's breaks all around it. And so I'll be making water when I'm there.
Mm.
Anyway, it's so back to 24. I decide, wow, this is an amazing lifestyle, and I realized it wasn't easy to make money in this business. It's like, you I was a builder. I was an engineer, and figured I was going to be a contractor. And I came back and I said, okay,
You ended up building custom homes, was it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I made a very cognizant decision after roaming the planet for 3 years. And I did all kinds of odd jobs when I was traveling, 24, 25, 26. And I was a waiter, I was a busboy, rode a bicycle and delivered mail as a courier. I poured concrete for people, whatever, just to make enough money to get by. But then I wanted to come back and get some real money. So I came back to Southern California and I got my contractor's license, and I just got down and I started using other people's money to buy properties, and then I would build on them, and I'd put the package together, and some I would keep and some I'd sell. And I got married when I was about 30.
Mm.
And I married this woman who was an architect, and we were a pretty dynamic team together. But
Was she about the same age as you?
yeah, she was a year younger than me, and but I didn't realize at the time, because I went to San Francisco. This was right after, most of your listeners probably wouldn't know this, but right after there was a event called the Oakland Hills Firestorm. Happened in 1991, October 1991, and 3,000 houses burned down in one day in the Oakland Hills. It's just across the bridge from San Francisco. And I was living in Southern California at the time, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And now, at the time, there was a huge recession occurring all over the country. And I had built another spec house. I couldn't sell it. It was sitting there empty, and all my cash was stuck in that. And I was like, I'm going to go check this out. So I bought a ticket on Southwest Airlines. I went up, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, my sister-in-law just got her architecture degree up there, and she lives right by. I'll have her pick you up at the airport."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, great. So she did. We drove around, and that within some amount of time, we got married. And she was my partner, and we built a lot of houses. And that was an amazing time because there was all these empty lots, and we were killing it. I mean, we bought and sold. I'm just having to hide from the sun, just piercing in my eyes.
No, you're good, man. Just move to wherever you
Okay,
need to on the boat.
yeah.
If you need to go
the
inside,
boat-
then just go inside if the light's too bright, or throw on some
Okay.
shades.
Okay. So that when I met her, I said, "Look, I'm a sailor and a surfer, and I'm going to get down, and we are going to make some serious dough. And after we make this chunk of money, I want to go sail the earth, sail the planet." And she was like, "Oh, that sounds so exciting. That's so amazing." And when you don't have kids, like you say, the women's perception of world and everything, it just changes radically. We're just spinning around here. So by the time I was 40, I had made a lot of money. I think I was a multi-millionaire. And so this was like 10 years later. And we had done a lot of houses. Very successful. We had a great reputation. And I was like, look, I had 3 kids. They were young at that time. They were like, I don't know, 4, 6, and 8. I said, let's go. And she's like, no, I don't want to go anymore. And I was like, oh my God. And there was a lot of discussion about it, but she just changed her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
why did she say no when she previously said yes before? Because I always have to remind guys, like, women always reserve the right to change their mind at any given time. This is a classic example of it.
She was just comfortable because I was a victim of my own success.
Yeah.
I really was. I was a victim of my own success. I lived in a beautiful house. I had a second house in the mountains. We had a ski house, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had my own airplane. I had a Beechcraft Baron. I would fly the family around in the plane. My kids, we had a beach house down in San Clemente near my parents that would share with the family, but still, it was right on the water. We had this
so like
amazing
you guys
lifestyle.
were the envy of like your social network, right?
That's right.
You know, beautiful family, multiple residences, lots of money, a plane.
Yes. I was killing it, and I worked my ass off. I would venture to say I would work 16 hours a day, and I would, I would have to say also that as far as a exercise regimen and keeping fit, even though I kept all these jobs going, I would work every day on the jobs. I would make sure I would pick up a couple 2x12s and run up and down the hills. I was actually doing work at the time, but and I'd run up and down stairs on these hillside lots, and it kept me very, very, very fit. The payoff of that today, I'm 59. Generally, people guess me to be about 45. It happened today with some guy, another sailor. He's like, I can't believe you're 59. But over the years, keeping your weight, I'm the same weight and size almost as when I was 21 or 18. And so I was here listening to you talk about all your fitness, and that is, I never went to a gym. Huge payoff. Anyway, she changed her mind because she was comfortable, and she didn't want to travel, and she wanted to go for a couple of weeks, or maybe a weekend, or maybe even a month, but she didn't want to like stop and actually tour the world, live with the locals, live as you would. My idea was to take the kids and, okay, we're going to go to Italy. We're spending a semester in Italy. They're just going to go in to get in Italian schools.
It sounds like you had everything but the boat at that time.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And I knew how much work boats were, and I didn't really have the time to take care of one because I was in this work mode. And then we started looking at boats, and then she went down, looked at me with them a little bit with me, and then she said, nah, not into it. And so I was like, okay. Now, at the time, I was living in Oakland. If you know anything about Oakland, it's a pretty rough place to live. And
yeah, it's kind of a shithole.
And I have in my career between growing up in LA and growing up in Oakland, I've had a gun pulled in my head 3 times. Just random shit, guys, thugs walking down the street, they'll stop and pull out a piece, and I run. I see it coming, and I floor it and get out of there. And it's got to know how to run. And I did that in LA as being a gopher for my dad's company. You make the wrong turn down some alleyways and trying to take a shortcut in the afternoon through East LA, and you're fodder for them. So I know the routine. I wanted to get the hell out of there. It's like, okay, enough. I don't want to have to die for this.
How old were the kids when you had to untie the knot?
Oh, they were 14, 16, and 18.
Okay, so they were almost adults then.
Yeah.
So what happened when you had to go through that process with family law in the state of California?
So we'd had this business together for basically 20 years. And I had also made a second company that was manufacturing. If you guys could look it up if you want. It's called Vitruvian Built. There's a bunch of YouTubes about it. There's a guy, John Stanier made a documentary. If you look him up, he's made I think he made Rocky. He was the camera and producer guy, Hollywood dude. But he happened to be my neighbor at the time, and he watched what I was making. He said, "Hey, can I make a documentary about you on this? I just think it's interesting." So he did. So the result of that is on YouTube. And I made a machine that automated the production of houses in a net zero fashion. Almost
What are you
no
talking
waste.
about? Like 3D house printed houses where it prints the
Yeah,
house from the bottom
but it
up?
didn't. Well, what we did is we took large chunks of foam and we cut them up, and then
Hmm.
we machined them and milled them. But the software we made would image anything you could draw in 3D in AutoCAD. It
Hmm.
would read it and then make a G code to cut it out. And then
Okay.
we wrote algorithms in order to optimize how to use all the materials. And so we wasted very little, and it was very cheap and efficient way to build really straight, square, efficient houses because your walls are 8-inch solid foam. And then you add cement or drywall on the outside to that. It looks like a regular house.
So that's where you'd get those Spanish looking houses in California, right?
Well, I mean, any
Made
house.
out of foam.
You could do modern. You could do gingerbread. You could do
Okay.
Spanish. You could any house or any building that had walls or roofs. I could build.
How much were both these businesses doing, by the way? Like, if you don't mind, like what was your net worth approximately when you went into the divorce versus after?
Well, at my peak, I think my net worth that was about 19 or maybe about 2000, one or two. I was probably worth 10 million.
Hmm.
And then by the end of it, I was probably worth. We were just suffering the wrath of 2008, and everything declined a lot because I had most of my assets in real estate. I think I owned about 37 properties, but the net of that, I would get a pretty good income every year, but the gross value was about 6 million
Okay.
because it went down. But
Yeah.
I stopped working so much. I kind of semi-retired after I was 42.
Hmm.
And then that's when I built this house manufacturing system, and so I um, the manufacturing process never really made any money because I didn't charge. I mean, we only did it. It took me. I guess I worked on it for about 3 years, and to go through the beta testing is just a lot of failures. I had to build it, rebuild it 3 or 4 times, this machine, and I had to get approvals all over California. I had to go through destructive testing. I had to get UBC codes and but I built 40 structures with it. So
Okay.
I built a couple 100,000 square feet of walls and roofs. Um, and it was now this was 10 years ago. So money today, if I would have kept it all together, I sometimes do the math.
Hmm.
I don't know, it might be worth 30 million today
Okay.
if I would have gone up on the trajectory. So I'd done okay. And I was very happy. I was more than happy. And then one day, my ex-wife, I realized she'd been planning this for about 3 years,
How did you know she was
um,
planning for 3 years?
because she was in charge of the books.
Ah, so the books. That's where the truth came out, eh?
Yeah, so she was very clever, and we had debt, of course,
Hmm.
to other people. When you have, I had bank loans, and then I had private loans from other investors. All of that happened to be in my name, or theoretically, it wasn't. We didn't have to pay it back because it wasn't properly recorded against properties. Now they trusted us,
Hmm.
and I trusted my ex-wife.
Hmm.
That was my mistake, and I even, threw myself to the judge. I said, "Hey, this isn't fair." He goes, "Fair, dude. You know what is fair? There's no fair, and you should have been more careful. You shouldn't have trusted her." I was like,
So
"Okay,
a family judge said, "Don't trust your wife."
yeah, basically,
Hmm.
yeah." In so many words.
Totally like counterintuitive to what you've been told your entire life, right? It's just, put your trust in your partner.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: is when I went to the court, I really haven't spent any time in courts. I mean, I've been in a few lawsuits over the years over disputes over properties and little things like that,
Hmm.
uh, and just being in the course of business. but you barely, it's not like you're in front of a jury. It's not like Perry Mason where there's a jury and everything. That's just business law. Well, when I went to uh, divorce law, into the divorce court, there's one guy, just the judge.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And he makes all the calls.
He makes all the calls. He can do whatever he wants. And my ex-wife was a pro. She wore a cute dress right up over her knee and some shoes that would, he was talking to the judge. The guy was like 65, good-looking guy. You could see he was a coxman in his day. And, he's like, he's retired from being a lawyer, and they put him on the stand. Mm-hmm. And in my town, in San Luis Obispo, there was 3 judges. 3. That's it. So you really can't change. There's no latitude. There's nowhere else to go. You just get what you get. Mm-hmm. And when she would go to walk up on the stand, she would stand up. He would almost come out of his chair like, "Oh, sit down," like point at the chair like he was pulling up the chair for.
Is basically what you're saying.
He was simping hard.
He was simping for your wife.
Oh yeah, he liked her, and she was like working it, man. Dressed, because I looked at her. I said, I didn't say it, but I just saw her. I go, "You never dress like that." Mm-hmm. It's like sexy conservative. Oh yeah. Yeah. And so she'd been coached, and I was like, "Oh my God, I am such a sitting duck here." Mm-hmm. And when I came up, he just kind of laid back, like, "Yeah, whatever. Let's hear your side of the story, bud." And she asked from the first day for full control. Now, before that, when she sprung it on me one morning, just said, "Oh, I want a divorce." And I remember it was November 7th, 2012. And it was her morning, laying in bed, and she gave me a big old elbow. And I said, "What's that about?" She said, "I want a divorce." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" I mean, it's totally surprised her. We had 3 kids in the house, this beautiful estate down in San Luis Obispo. We had moved the whole family down there 8 years before, and I built out a beautiful gentleman's ranch. Had a vineyard and fruit trees, and I built a sports field for my kid, and he liked to play baseball.
Why do you think she pulled the trigger on that particular date on November the 7th? Like, was it like, she had cooked the books long enough?
We had an argument. We had an argument a few days before.
Okay.
And it was about the election. And and Obama had won again. And I was angry because what he had done to me, if it just happened to be in my case, guys like me, he had given a lot of money to banks, and the banks bought the local banks, and then the local banks were now owned by outsider banks, and they started foreclosing processes on all kinds of properties. Mm-hmm. And they tried to foreclose on me. They did illegal stuff. I won't get too into it, but they were bastards. I actually took one of them to court, and I won. And that was another court case I had, but didn't lose anything to foreclosure because I'd kept up my bills. But they tried to trick me into a lot of nasty stuff. These were big boys from New York, and they bought the little local bank in San Luis Obispo. And I said, "How come we're in the situation where our government is taking our money and printing it and giving it to the big banks and coming in and just stealing from us? I don't want to vote for this guy again." Mm-hmm. And she said, "I don't even care about that." She goes, "All I care about is that the liberal agenda is that my daughters will be free to have an abortion if they want."
Wow. So, okay, so let me just frame this, right? Because of what I'm hearing. So I'm just going to say this, So if I understand you correctly, Duane, your wife was more interested in her daughters being able to have abortions than protecting the family wealth.
That's right.
Right. The government, the bureaucratic policymakers that, set up these new, laws and stuff that are basically stealing wealth from your business and making it hard for you to run your business. She gets mad at you because you wanted the other guy and she got the guy that protects abortion rights.
Yeah, I think Dole was running against him at the time.
Sorry about that. Just needed to clarify, but carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of these guys I'm watching, he was watching this, probably won't get the timing of all this. But yeah, that happened. That freaking happened. I remember sitting there and then, so we got an argument like the day after, and she said, I remember walking out, she goes, "Have a nice day going to work, honey." And I was like, "Have a nice day." Mm-hmm. I go, "Did you realize this is what happened?" Mm-hmm. Like, this is insanity. Like, I got to put up with this crap for 4 more years. I go, we were this close to getting our house foreclosed on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just killing myself. I had actually took jobs out of town so everybody could keep eating and I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
lose my main house and my, some other jobs. And I had a lot of jobs going at the time. I had like I was building a 9-unit apartment complex and a commercial building and a custom home and some other little things. And, just business as usual. And I was using my building system and then being a contractor and I was running around. I owned a fleet of tractors. I had an excavator and a backhoe and a bulldozer and all the big contractor toys. And yeah, and it just making ends meet, kids were in private schools. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, yeah, but I don't care. And I was like, wow. And I
Just
heard
like
that.
that, eh?
And I turned around. I got mad at her. I yelled. I never hit her, never got even close, 3 or 4 feet away. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
else around to hear us.
Mm-hmm.
But I got pissed off. I yelled. And then 2 days later, she said, I want a divorce. And I was like, what?
Okay.
Oh, you want that for that?
So what was the outcome of the divorce when the dust settled, right? Like when the process was done, like what were you left with? What was she left with? How were you treated? How was she treated?
Okay, so after like this happens in November, so I begged her for 6 weeks
Mm-hmm.
because we were together for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she was faking it the whole time, not to let the kids know that we were getting a divorce. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
We were sleeping in the same bed, but I was negotiating with her the whole time. I was like, "Oh, let's go to counseling. Let's do something else," because neither one of us were cheating. We didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any significant others, and I had no idea the depth that she had already studied this out. And
Yeah, I always tell
she,
guys like women plan this out well in advance. I mean, 3 years. You might be hearing this right now and thinking, guys, wow, 3 years. That's it's pretty. It's not that uncommon.
mhm. And thanks for saying that, Rich. It's keeping that perspective. So for up until around Christmas, and I remember I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't figure out a way to bring any new business in because then all
Mm-hmm.
the numbers start going through my head. It's like I'm a small family construction business. If I know I talked to my accountant right away and I said, hey, if I go to half, do I have the leverage to go borrow like I used to? He said, no. I said, so that means it's going to severely limit the size and the amount of jobs I can get. He goes, yeah, that's right. Not only you're being set back the money you have, but you're being set back the money you could possibly make. And I'm sweating in bed and I'm going, well, how do I bring in new business right now?
I'm
With
assuming she didn't
knowing,
care about that, though, right?
oh no.
Yeah.
And in fact, she just, at one point, we had one empty lot left back up in Oakland. Now, we lived in San Luis Obispo. People don't know where those are geographically. It's about a 4-hour car drive. And Oakland's in the middle of the city, San Francisco, and San Luis Obispo is this beautiful, bucolic coastal town. It's like Oprah Winfrey one day said it's the best place to live in the world, or happiest place in the world to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just gorgeous, rolling hills. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. And I was having to go back and forth between these two places to keep up enough income because it was after the 2008 recession, just barely keeping ends together. And then, so this was like, 3-4 years later after that, the economy was just starting to sputter back up. And I negotiated with her for about 2 months. And then one day I said, hey, you realize if you take all these properties, I'm not going to be able to make a living like I used to. So we should just split the assets. And I put together a package that I thought was fair, where actually she ended up with about 60%. I ended up with 40%. She would end up with the income properties, and I'd end up with the properties that maybe had a little more equity, that the potential to make more, and we call it even.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh, no. You owe me. I said, but you've been my partner all these years. She goes, no, I don't. Here's a big thing. even though she would work with me and advise me, and which was true, she wasn't on the payroll. She would claim housewife on our taxes.
Mm.
Okay, that was a big deal. She wasn't architect, and we would hire other architects to sign the. So it was theoretically true. Now she was huge in, we would look at a piece of property. Hey, you think we should buy that lot? Yeah, I think so. Okay, then what are we going to put on it? She goes, I think you should put 9 apartments on it. Oh, okay. And
Why didn't you put her on payroll though for tax savings reasons to lower your tax brackets?
no, it's the other way around. You get a bigger write off on a housewife
Oh, okay.
in
Okay.
California.
All
Yeah.
right.
And
So state laws
part of it is
incentivize.
yeah, but part of it
Yeah.
is that then I think it's she's not, she did for the first while, but then for the next 8, the previous 8 years, housewife. And the first 10 years she was on payroll.
And you guys were married for more than 10 years, right?
Oh, 20.
Okay.
We were together 22. I call it 22 because from the time I met her, which was just boom, all the way
What's the
through.
law in California? I think it's after 10 years,
10.
you're on the hook for alimony?
You're on forever.
Forever, yeah.
Forever. So she said at that moment, she goes, "No, you owe me." And I was like, "I owe you?"
Yeah,
Well, we've been
she was in
sleeping
a
in the
bargaining
same.
position on this one.
Oh
eh?
yeah, like, we've been sleeping in the same bed for all this time. We've been, we go to the same. We do everything together. We're in the same room. We're in the same house. We don't. How could one person owe another? We've had the same experience. Now let's take the assets and split them and move forward.
Mhm.
I said, you're a smart lady. You're a hardcore feminist. And I said,
Strong,
women can
independent
get
woman,
jobs.
right?
Yeah, strong, independent woman, man.
I
You
don't
can
need
get a
no
job,
man, but I need his money.
baby. Yeah, it's so true. And she said, well, look, if it's going to be a problem, you may have a hard time getting to know your kids.
Wow.
I was like, oh, fuck. You have to bleep that out. I'm sorry, but I was floored, and I had been talking to other guys. I talked to some lawyers. I talked to, people by that time, and they were very clear. They said, look, if those kind of threats start coming up, she's got way bigger plans, and don't get caught. She wants you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew my buttons to push. I'd never been arrested. I don't have any tickets. I'd never been in jail. I'd never been in, I barely even had a speeding ticket. But I had, I'd get mad. And when I was a kid, you talk about fighting and stuff. When we were in high school, I'd fight.
Mm-hmm.
But I never hit anybody after that. But she had this, I realized then, she had this dialogue that somehow I was scary. Later, it would come up in depositions. She kept claiming she was scared and I was scary.
Did this lead up to a false DV?
Yeah.
Okay, so those of you that don't know what a false DV is, and I talk about it in my book in the chapter on why smart men don't marry. Did you read my book, by the way?
I did.
Yeah.
I just got done with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Would you co-sign that chapter?
Oh, absolutely.
So
I was sitting there. I had to stop the car and sit there and listen.
you're just nodding your head, going, "Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is."
And I've heard it. I've studied enough about this. I've heard it in other places,
Yeah.
but you portray it perfectly. So go for it, dude. You wrote it, man.
So women use this as a trump card often. Terrible women. So let me just be clear on that, because it doesn't require any proof. And so I'll tell you a story. So this one guy was telling me that, he had come home from work. He's expecting to see his family and his kids. And as he walks in the front door, his wife is basically on the phone with the police saying, "We're really scared. He's threatening to hurt us. He has guns," and all this sort of stuff. And it's like 15 minutes later, 2 cruisers rip down the street. One of them parks on his front lawn, tearing up shrubs and stuff. And the other one in the driveway, sirens going. And he basically gets hauled away in handcuffs. They change the locks on the house, and he doesn't have access to the house. His kids, when the house sells, nothing, because she claimed he was a bad, scary man. He was a boogeyman, and bad things, were happening. They don't require any proof. It's just the allegation is plenty in most places in the world. Duane went through that. So what happened with the false DV charge? Like, what did she do?
Okay. So here's how it went down. I realized when she said that, that I was like, okay, wait a minute. Those are not her normal words because I've been living with this person for 22 years. So I'm very aware of when she's saying something threatening because I've seen her deal with a lot of people. She handled a lot of our legal work, or at least set the strategy for our, if we had issues or whatever, but as you do in business, just in business. And very crafty, very clever. And by the way, she came from a family, very broken family, where her father destroyed her mother in divorce in the late 70s in California.
Mm-hmm.
So her mother went from being a happy housewife, like Leave It to Beaver, to having to become an oncology nurse, changing bedpans in the middle of the night over a 2-year period. And she was 17 at the time when this happened. Her dad was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company known as Western Microwave. And they make bombs for the military. So now consider a man's, state of mind, a guy who last year your bomb killed 400 people at a whack. Got to do better this year. You got to kill 500. So this, to continue to keep him peaking at this, he would read books. His standard fare that he would talk about was The Art of War. And his daughters, he had 3 daughters. I married one of them. This is what they would talk about around the coffee table. And I didn't know anything about this. I was a deer in woods, man. I grew up just being a simple damn builder guy, and I wanted to surf and sail and have a good time.
Yeah, you're a surfing hippie, right?
Yeah, I was. And when you see my video, if you look at my video on Vitruvian built, you're going to see a guy who looks nothing like me now. I even look older then. We're going to hopefully get to that.
Okay.
So, all right. So when she started talking about this, about me not seeing the kids, I was like, this is a huge red flag. Now, it's been 3 months now.
You didn't know why at the time, but like the spidey senses were tingling, like, hang on, what's coming down the pipes here? And
I said, hang on a second. The kids weren't home. I walked in the house. I packed a bag. I came back out. I got in the car and I left.
Okay.
And a month before, I'd even asked her, because as soon as she told me about this divorce thing, weird mail starts showing up. I mean, like within the next couple of days, she started signing up for like not singles dating stuff, but things that women who are single would get in the mail, like, special bank accounts and, plus tax strategy planning and these things that we would never look at if we were a married couple. And I started noticing this mail. I said, wait a minute, you had to plan this for a while. Like, this didn't just happen yesterday.
You got to hit the road running, right? I mean, there's only so much sand left in the hourglass. She's only got her looks for so long.
Yeah. And then as soon as, even during the divorce process, man, she went out, she got a full workover from forehead to pussy. Just the whole thing worked over. I saw her later in court. Her face is a little bit deformed. She landed herself a wealthy guy now. It's another story, but she worked it hard. Yeah, it spent some money there. And she's a good looking lady too. She always was. And she never lost it really. So, but at one point I said, we haven't touched each other in months. I go, what are we doing? I go, are we dating others? I mean, do you go out all the time and I'm separate? She goes, I don't care what you do. I said, really? She goes, yeah. She goes, I don't give a shit. We're done. We just have to exercise this out as efficiently as we can to retain as much of the wealth as we can and not fuck this up. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't start dating, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. So we're done. We can date others. And so I left, and there was a woman who I knew, and I called her up, asked her for a ride from where I flew to in the airport. I really just wanted to get away, and she picked me up, and I'd never touched her before. And I asked her, I said, can we hang out? Like, she's a single woman. She was like, yeah, for sure. So we started hanging out. We had a good time, and she knew I was just coming out of this divorce, and well, my ex ended up having a guy follow us, take pictures, And she gave that to my kids later.
Nice
Even
lady.
after, nice, yeah, to juice them up a little more. Yeah. So anyway, that happened. But
so what happened
after,
with the DV
it's
charge?
okay. So DV, so
Yeah.
I'm out of the house. She puts a big pile of shit in she puts it in my hangar, my airplane hangar. She purges everything out of the house that she thinks is mine, which is just my clothes, some skis, some sports gear, and she dumps it in the hangar. So I'm looking at all the stuff. I'm like, okay. And there was a pair of my daughter's skis in there. So one day I drove by the house. I was going to put the skis, not even on the property, but at the front mailbox. Well, she happened to be out there. And I live on this big estate, 10 acres out in the country. The kids were kind of up the driveway. And I said, here, I ended up with these. These are Madison's, she says. Maddie was 18 by this time. We're just turning 18. And she says, you're not, get the hell out of here. I don't want to see you. And yelling at me. And I yelled at her back. And we just had words. I didn't even step on the property. I was on the street. And I got in the car and I was in a huff and I was pissed off and I drove away. She went to the judge the next day and said, he came at me and I was scared to death. And boom, restraining order. Now I can't be near my kids. I can't be near the house. I can't now. And then was finally, we got to the first day of a hearing. Okay. So now she asked for a decisional hearing by the judge. I don't know what you call it exactly, but so we end up in front of the judge and I have a lawyer by this time. And she walks in and spends about 3 hours on the stand telling the judge why she should have 100% management control of the company that we've had together for 22 years. And I was just sitting there like shell-shocked. I was listening to her.
Did you ever think for a minute that he would give it to her, or you're like, this isn't going to happen. Just let her,
no
blow
fucking
off the
way.
steam. Yeah.
No way. I kept looking at my lawyer like, what? Now, it came to halftime, and she threw all kinds of allegations out at me. And she even said, oh, by the way, if I get control of this company, I have every qualification to run it. I am, I have a degree in architecture, and I've been his partner for 22 years, and I used to be pound nails, and I know how to order the concrete out of the truck. And
blah, blah,
by the
blah.
way,
yeah.
I have 3 guys who have agreed to put their license up if he leaves. And she named them. And one of the guys, I knew of all 3 of them. And one was friends of her dad. Another guy was some random dude. And another guy was a friend of like the family. And I just sat there and I was like, really? Those guys could do my job? I by this time I'd even gotten a patent. And I was lecturing on the college level about building technology. I would consider it a building technologist. That's the name they gave. So I would talk to architecture students and engineering students, and I would talk to green. You call what's the word in college? But the greenies. And so I had, I was like, really? This is all going to replace me? I was like, okay. And then I went to lunch. They broke for lunch, and I called my accountant. And he had just been through a gnarly divorce that took him 4 years, and he had finished his. And he was my partner for 25 years because we owned a lot of income properties together. Another part of what I did is I had put together syndications and raised money, and we bought apartment buildings all over California. It was very successful. We did really well with that. And so my accountant was my partner in that. And I told him, hey, this is what's going on. He goes, oh, don't worry, this is just D-Day. It's going to get better from here. And I said, well, do I even want this company? And he was like, well, just go in there and give it your best shot. So, okay. So I go back. Yeah. And so I go back. And I said, look, Your Honor.
So you march back into the slaughterhouse.
Yeah. And it's like, and my lawyer actually looked at me and said the same thing. He goes, I don't really know you that well because we're just starting this process. Like I maybe known him a couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and he had seen my numbers. I thought it was just going to be a matter of just like saying, okay, here's the assets,
Mm-hmm.
who gets what, and let's go from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought it was going to be. She turns it into she wants full management control, and I was like, well, how is that going to work? And so I told the judge, I said, look, Your Honor, I don't understand how this can even be a thing because we've been partners for 22 years and we've made every decision together. And now we're going to be at odds with each other. And one guy's going to tell the other guy what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I go, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. So
he hands over control.
Within 2 days, he writes a letter, says she's got all control. So then first thing.
So she's got the kids. She's got
Yep.
the assets. She's got the house, which you've moved out of. Now she's got the business.
Yep. And so now I was in the middle of building out a handful of projects, which I really wanted to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, one of the houses was for a guy named Dr. Cherry. And and now, okay, I'm going to take you back 10 years. And this is kind of interesting, especially for a lot of guys in America and California. Around the 10-year mark of marriage, she and I were arguing a lot about where we should live. She wanted to stay in the city. She wanted to be the cool city girl. And I wanted...
Do you think that's a coincidence that at the 10-year mark where she knows that you're on the hook for lifelong alimony, that she became a little more disagreeable?
Oh, it's no question. She knew what she had. I knew what she had.
Okay.
I'm no dummy. I knew it was a stake, but, we had a great life. We were living in Oakland. I wasn't super rich, but I did good, and I'd wake up every morning and have jobs to do and very well respected. And we were helped build the little elementary school in our town and all the good stuff, and kids all running around all the time. So I kind of lost my train of thought. We were
you were talking about 10 years back with this guy that you had to build a house for.
So because we're arguing, she wants to go see a shrink.
Mm-hmm.
Go couples counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we go, and turns in she convinces them that I have the problem. And I'm
sorry, I'm not laughing at you. It's just like, see, I was right again, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have the problem. I have the problem because I'm angry because I was like, look, we got $10 million. How much more could we, just put that in a freaking simple 6% thing or even 10, or we don't have to put in anything. We own properties. I mean, they're spitting out cash. And it's like, we don't need to have a second and third house if we just have our one house and I'm there all the time. And I always was going to put my moniker of success to myself was that I get to see my house in the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
Because I work from before sunrise to after sunset. Every morning I'd wake up at 6. I'd be the first one down at the lumber yard and make sure everybody's going to have enough materials to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And then when I come home at night, and once in a while we had a little fun. I'd sneak home because I live very close to all my jobs. You get a little nookie in the afternoon. That was fun. It was great. And then we get to go on 3-day vacations to the mountain house. And once in a while we take off a few weeks and go to things. It was great. It's like, but at 10 years, I was like, how much more do we need?
Mm-hmm.
And let's do some different things. Let's go explore the world. I haven't seen the rest of the world. I haven't seen Europe. And I want to do this when my kids are small.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the resistance started. And I was like, what is going on? So she said, you're not happy. We got to go see a shrink. So we went together.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, she was like, I'm just frustrated trying to explain to this guy and to her why we should do this now. And I probably wasn't the best communicator, whatever. They convinced me I should go on Prozac.
They put you on antidepressants, eh?
Yeah, and I did not want them. I was like, I'm not depressed.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I did. I told him. I said,
I just want to go on a sailboat from time to time, man. That's my medicine. I don't need these pills.
well, yeah. Well, I wanted to park all the jobs we have and
Yeah.
take the kids and introduce them
No,
to the
got
rest
it,
of the
man.
world.
Yeah, totally. But instead
Yeah.
you got put on like antidepressants, right? Because you know,
Yeah.
imagine that you're married. You've done the right thing your entire life. You've raised a family. You've built a business. You're loaded. You've got a plane. You've got multiple houses. You got vacation houses, and it's like you just want to sail a boat, and you go to a therapist, and the guy's like, "Here, take these pills and shut up."
Dude, I wasn't even asking for life. I was
Yeah,
asking for a year.
yeah,
1 year. I said,
got it.
let's just go for a
Yeah,
fucking
okay.
year, and we'll find a boat somewhere. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I
Yeah.
figure everything else out. I mean, my God, I've done all this stuff. I've built houses on hillsides in the middle of winter.
I'm starting to get some wind from your mic. I don't know if you can move closer to the cabin.
Okay. So, so I, how's that?
Yeah, yeah, that's better.
Sit on my toolbox, even better. So, I realized, okay, so this is classic. 10 years more go, 8 years more go by. Oh, we moved, by the way.
Hmm.
After that, that was part of the deal. I said, all right, you want me to go Prozac? Tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll take your Prozac, but we're moving to Central California.
Hmm.
That's the deal. Because that'll be like a halfway, and I'm going to call it my boat.
Hmm.
So I bought 10 acres, 1331 Tiffany Ranch Road. Look it up and see how beautiful that property is. It's on, realtor.com or whatever. 1331
right
Tiffany Ranch. Yeah. And just, it's a gorgeous place. I built so many beautiful places. From beginning to end, by the way, my production flow of my life over 30 years, on an average of every 120 days. So think where you were 4 months ago. What are we now? We're December 14th. So that'd be August, September, October, November, December. So from August 14th, where were you? Middle of summer. And now it's December 14th. August, September, October, November, December. Yeah. In that time, every 120 days for 30 years, I would produce a property like that and put it on the market.
Is that it there?
So, yeah, you can see it from the sky. And if you go on like the realtor.com thing, you can see it. There's probably beautiful pictures of it all built out.
Yeah, it's
In
a
Oakland,
ranch.
Tiffany Ranch Road in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
It's a ranch, yeah. Anyway, so, it's, but that's what I did. And so I said, look, let's move down here because then I can call this.
She agreed to that.
Yeah, she agreed.
Yeah.
So we went.
So, I mean,
And
you're
this
all
also-
spaced out on these antidepressants.
Yeah. And they're kind of a joke because here's the thing, for me anyway, when I
Yeah.
took Prozac, it slows you down.
It slows you down. It makes you fat. It takes away your sexual desire. It does a lot of things to you.
Yeah. And actually I was still having sex was fine. It didn't really slow that down for me. But it definitely, like if a bomb went off behind me, you turn around and go, what the fuck?
You
Let's
just
fight
cared
back.
less.
You give a shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this good? And so I was like, whatever. And I tried to go off of them sometimes, and it's horrible in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this guy, Dr. Cherry, is a renowned shrink in the Bay Area. And he actually runs a place called the Thunder Road Clinic in Oakland. It's where a lot of wayward kids end up. And so he kind of sets policy on that. So his name is, he's a upstanding guy. And so, of course, we go to him. And all right, so we take the drugs and then we move away.
I do want to
build
talk
out
about
the
the
ranch.
boat, Duane, and I've got like
Okay.
25 minutes left because I got to
Okay.
hop on another call. So I just wanted to make sure we have enough time to talk about the boat and the new lifestyle too.
So I'll get you there. So I end up 8 years later, I get this phone call and I get, hey, somebody I know needs to build a house up in Oakland. And I needed the work because of the middle of the recession. And so I get these plans and I bid them. I don't even know who it's for. It's this beautiful house. in Oakland or in Orinda, modern. And the guy finally gets the bid, and then he calls me and he says, "Hey, I got your bid. It's amazing. It's like $1.5 million."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and I start listening. I go, "Hey man, I recognize your voice." I go, "Wait a minute. Your plans say Schwinn Cherry." I go, "You're David Cherry. You're my old shrink." And
Oh.
he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, that's your wife's name, Schwinn." He goes, "Yeah." So we hyphenated Schwinn Cherry. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. Is this okay? I build your house?" He goes, "Yeah, if you want. I mean, are you okay with it?" I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, whatever. So it's a good house, and I need the money, and so let's do this." So we do.
Yeah.
18 months goes by. One day I walk into his house, and it's like 80% done, and I just look like hell. And he goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "I'm getting a divorce." He goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my God." Now, the thing is, when you build someone's home, you get to know them better than anybody else. Like better than their shrink would, because
Mm-hmm.
people confide things in you when you build their home that they wouldn't even confide in
What'd you learn?
anybody. Well, how he treats his wife, how he thought about marriage,
Mm-hmm.
how he perceives himself to his kids, his relationship to other people, because people present themselves that way through their homes. How they want their car to be seen in the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
how they, um, and even pitting themselves against their spouse. Like, "Wait, don't you think this fork knife would be better on this side than that side?" Even though his wife wants it on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, "Oh, you're going to use me for your battles? Fight your own battles."
Mm.
Okay.
It's quite the lesson.
Yeah. So this
Was it
happens
a
all the time in
was
custom
it a
home
do as
building.
I say, not as I do sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So then I started
Gotcha.
looking at this guy going, "You're the one who was counseling us."
Yeah.
Okay. That day I walked in, I said, "What's up?" I said, "I'm getting a divorce." He's like, "Oh my God, that's horrible. I'm so sorry." Well, can you finish my house? I said, "Yeah, I'll get your house finished." So after I finished it, last day, he gives me my final payoff check.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hey, come here. I want to step off your property." We walk over, and I said, "All right, this is the property line, right?" I go, "I'm done with your house, right?" He goes, "Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Everything's perfect." Okay. And I said, and you and I have no more business after this. Yeah. I said, "All right. So hand me the money." So he gives it to me off the property. And I said, "Now, okay, I want to ask you something now that we're neutral men standing on neutral property. Do you think you did the right thing 8 years ago, prescribing me that
Mm-hmm.
after you know me now?" And he said, "No." I said, "Thank you." So basically, he had the wool pulled over his eyes because now he got to know me mano a mano building his house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how I managed stuff. And sure, I'd yell at the drywall hanger some days, like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're upside down." Ah. But he knew some people just don't respond any other way. And then he saw the stresses of spending a couple $1,000,000. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, probably the biggest asset you'll ever own. And he got nervous too. And many times I had to calm him down. So, so then he was like, "Oh, I got it." He realized he'd been juked by the system. So anyway,
These guys know what they're doing. It's about their priorities, and I always tell guys to be very cautious when it comes to therapists because like even today it's worse than what it was back when you were dealing with it because now even the APA has guidelines basically telling therapists and counselors to treat men as if they're toxically masculine, right? That it's always going to be you as the problem. So even
really.
back then they still treated you as the problem.
Okay, so here was the thing that I didn't realize then. That was a setup.
Oh.
Because now she's got this thing that says, "Oh, he was on drugs."
Oh, that's why she wanted you on the
Yes, that's why
antidepressants.
she
I
jumped
see.
up and down and
That's how you
pointed
tied
the
it in.
finger. And I was like,
Gotcha.
"That's what's
Well,
going on."
well, let's switch gears and let's talk about today because I mean
Okay.
that's everything that led you up to where you are right now. So now you're in your late 50s. I
I
believe
was
you're in.
53. Okay,
Uh,
so I get out, I walk
you're in
out.
50. You're 53, and you head out to Turkey to buy this
No,
bad boy over here.
I, yeah, no, I didn't leave until I was 57, 56.
Oh, 56. Okay.
Because I got out of the divorce. It ended up being a 2 year uh, divorce she sued me then for a fiduciary breach to not show up to work. That was the part I never got to.
Oh my God.
Right. So then 2 years of court.
How long did this all go on for with the whole
2 years.
divorce? Like
2 years.
it was 2 years to
Yeah.
untie the knot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I walked to zero.
and
But
you
here was
walked
the
out of
thing.
it with zero. So she got everything. She got the kids, she got the business, she got the houses, she
House.
got everything.
Uh-huh.
And you basically had to like walk away from all of it just to get away
Everything.
from it all.
Right. So the deal I cut is called a global settlement. And I said, all right, I can see the system. It could drag me back into court any day they want.
Mm-hmm.
And for just make something up. Well, I don't think
So
they do
you
that.
had to terminate any access to that. So you did a global
Right.
settlement. So
That's right.
you actually walked away with zero.
Zero.
You gave her everything. How did you
Yeah.
how did you make the money to buy the sailboat? Because I mean, like
Okay.
something like
So
that,
I had a lot of
got to
debt.
cost like 400 grand, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I got, we had debt in the company,
Mm-hmm.
about $1.5 million. And all the investors wanted it back. Well, she had it worked out to where either I had to pay it back or I didn't have to pay it back at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was 4 years old, I didn't have to. And I said, well, that's not right. And she just walked away from it. So I told the guys, I said, look, if you extend my lines of credit, I'm going to go make it back and I'm going to pay you back, but you got to let me make money at the same time.
Okay, so you built a few more houses to raise the money.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did
Let's,
that. So three, 4 years, and then I start looking, and I searched everywhere. I bought a boat in the meantime, lived on it in San Francisco. I bought a Hunter 42, but that wasn't big enough and it wasn't strong enough. And then
Strong enough for blue water sailing is what you're saying.
well,
like
you can
ocean.
blue water sail it, but it
Okay.
just I wanted something heavier
Okay.
because when you're sitting like right now at anchor, like I am,
Mm-hmm.
those little swells come in and throws you around. The difference, a paradigm jump. Once you get to 50 feet, that's about as big as a single-handed guy would want to handle.
Okay.
We have bow thrusters, which is a motor in the front to push
Mhm.
the nose back and forth when it gets windier and you're going in and out of docks and stuff.
Mhm.
But if it's a small, if it's like 45 feet, the weight of a 45 footer is maybe 12 tons. The weight of my boat is 18 tons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge, because it doesn't just get longer, it gets wider and deeper.
Mhm.
Kind of grows at the cube.
Right.
And now you get over 18 tons and it gets really unmanageable. And for one person, you have to have a crew.
Okay.
And I wanted the ability to single hand if I need to.
Okay.
So,
And I mean, like, this is the boat. Wait, hang on a sec. Let me add it to. So this is the boat here, right?
yep.
I mean, that's not your boat, obviously, but that's
Yeah, it's
a model
it's
of
a
your boat.
Beneteau 50. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And
it's
Can
a
you just
Cent.
give us like a quick tour as you're
Yeah.
talking about it? Because I've got
Yeah,
like maybe
can I-
20 minutes left, so maybe just walk us
Do I
around.
want to turn the screen around, or do I want to keep
Yeah,
you
yeah,
with-
yeah. You just
with
turn
me?
the screen around and just kind of give
Can
us
I-
a quick tour of it. And
can I
I got some
mic
questions
com?
for you about boating too, because I mean, like,
Okay,
a lot of this
leave
stuff.
my com. How do I turn a mic com?
You should have like
chat?
on your screen, or if you can't, then just hold it up and sort of turn
Okay,
it around the other way. If that
I'm not
works.
without losing it, maybe. Okay, so
Yeah, you might lose
here's
it.
it's a dual wheel,
Yeah.
and all of the instruments you could ever want. You could have.
And it's got
see the whole
autopilot
world.
and
Oh
all
my
the good
God,
stuff
yeah.
too. So
Yeah, autopilot, kick-ass
like you can
autopilot.
sleep and it'll just kind of steer itself and avoid like shipping lanes and everything.
Whoa. Well, you could program it to sail any way you want. And
Okay.
but we have a thing called AIS, which is pretty common in boats now. Just basically, it shows up on the screen where the boats are, and it tells you tells them where you are as well. Let me walk you up on the bow and show you around. So that's the actual cathedral of the Palma Cathedral. Isn't that a beautiful building?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right? Okay, another guy anchored here.
That's Mallorca, right?
Yeah, this is Palma de Mallorca.
Okay.
Palma of Mallorca. So this is extra bag is a Jenniker. It's got a single jib. It's a sloop design.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 65 foot tall mast.
What does the boat cruise at in like decent winds? Like, I notice a lot of sailing videos that I watch, like they're usually doing like 6 or 7 knots. They seem to be
correct,
pretty happy. Yeah.
Yeah, if I got it tooled up and the wind is perfect and it's nice long reaches, like this summer my son came and we sailed from Rome to Sardinia together, just me and him and the dog. And we had the Jenniker up the whole day, and we were averaged 8.5 knots.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing run. So generally, if you're getting 6 all the time, you're really happy. If you get 8 all the time, you're really happy for this size of a boat. Boats go at the square root of the length in feet.
And a boat like you're on, I mean, it's basically a house on the water. So it's
Exactly.
like you see the racing boats where it comes up on a hydrofoil and it's like blasting
gonna do
across
that.
the waves, doing like 70
Not gonna do
knots
that.
sometimes. Not even close. Like this is
Not
like
even
really
close.
designed to comfortably plow through the ocean and
Well,
just
because you
chilling.
got so much shit you need to bring, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just for example, look at the size of this anchor. Well, you can't see the anchor because the anchor's in the water.
Yeah.
But in this compartment, it's a bunch of chain. I have 150 meters of chain.
Right.
It's like weighs so much, and it's just it's a tank. Right now, you can
What's
get
it
it
like
moving
living
along.
on a boat? What's it like living on a boat? Like, is it
awesome.
like a dream or?
It's beautiful. It's like
What's the best part?
My bed is always there, and people, everybody, especially in the Mediterranean. Well, everywhere you're going to sail is a sailing community, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would not believe how many people here dream of doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't do it. So I'm like almost rare. There's in the world, I think there's only maybe 10,000 cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean people who sail on the weekend, and that's nice too. It's all good, but to actually,
What's a cruiser, if you can define it? Is that somebody that's like pretty much
Full-time.
always living on their boat?
yeah, you're full time. You're living on your boat full time.
Yeah.
That's your home, and you're working your way around the world.
Are you single now, or do you have like like a woman in your life, women
single.
in your life, or
Yeah.
what's that like? I mean, you just kind of like go into port and you just go for a drink and you see who's there and you chat them up and take it from there.
Well, that happens, and I had a girlfriend on here for a while, for about a year and a half, and
that was the
wanted
English
to,
one, the yogi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she was awesome, and but she wanted to run her business from land.
Mhm.
So I see her sometimes, and we're still friends. We have a great relationship, but she's definitely not she doesn't want to sail around the rest of the world.
She doesn't own a piece in your business. She's not going to steal kids from you. It's comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like that. And I've had other, I meet girls, and some of them stay for a week, some for a month. You meet people on there are dating kind of websites where you talk about where you might go, and people reach
It's
out
like
to me
Tinder
a lot.
for sailors.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's actually, yeah, kind of. But they really want to sail, so
So I mean, if you got a boat, then you're in a good position to say, hey, I'm going to do a passage from here to here. So let me ask you this question, because I don't know if you're familiar with this channel. It's called Sailing Doodles.
I haven't seen that one.
So this guy Bobby was a pilot, and I think he had a heart condition or a stroke or something like that, so he wasn't able to fly. So he's like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to buy a boat." And I've been watching his channel for the last couple of years, and all he does is he basically does these passages with women. And he's got this rotation of different women that show up on the boat. He never indicates in the videos whether or not he's intimate with them, but I mean, like you get but I mean, like you get the gist that something's going on. But he's got this constant rotation. And I've reached out to him. I said, "Hey, dude, I've been watching your channel. I do this podcast. I'd love to have you on to sort of talk about this life." But he won't confirm a conversation because I'm guessing he wants to keep it on the down low, right? Or maybe it's because of stuff that I talk about. But like, what is sailing lifestyle like? In that sort of environment, like, are they basically just like dealing with different women from port to port, and they're just having like a smash fest, and they go through another rotation, or like, what's that like?
Some guys can, that can definitely happen.
That's a nice boat you're on, man. Boy, that's a really nice interior.
Yeah, I was going to show you the inside. I'll answer that a little bit. So this is my camera gear. I have a big old long range lens, because everything's far away on the boat. This thing is really cool. It's an entertainment center.
Yeah.
I'll pull this out of the way. It's my dog. It's Athena, and push this up. This is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's got
it pops up out of the center. It's
yeah,
TV.
It's a TV, and then it's
got a nice
got
galley
surround
too.
sound. Killer galley, and all the food you could ever want to keep. You can keep cases of beer in there. Like under the floors is the water makers under here, and I got
how many staterooms?
There's 3. So this is a set of bunk beds, which I just keep it, put your crap in there. Sometimes I have 5 or 6 people on board, and that's fine. And then we use it as a regular bunk room. And this is bathroom. This is a nice stand-up shower, lots of hot water, almost never run out. Mm-hmm. And then this is a double bed, and mirrors everywhere. They're very clever the way they've designed everything.
Is that a French boat, by the way?
Yeah, it is.
It is, okay.
You can tell, yeah. And then this is the master.
And that's at the bow.
Yep. I love my bed. The best part about being on here is this bed is always there waiting for you. I go out and party, or I'm sleeping, or I surf, or you just take everything you have with you everywhere you go and see the whole world. And
your like your boat's basically your house, and your dinghy is essentially your car, right?
Yep, that's right. And you can stay in the bathroom. You can stay in marinas, which I just did for the last week, in fact, because I had to do some work on the boat. And it costs, this is a really expensive place. This is probably one of the more expensive marinas in all of the...
What does it cost a night?
Europe. During the wintertime, they were charging me 60 euros a night. Mm-hmm. So a couple thousand a month. But that's
do you have to pay anything to anchor?
No.
You don't. So, I mean, if you have an anchorage, you just drop anchor.
Yeah,
you're good.
But storms come, man. You better find a good anchorage. Now, but most of the time, it's not an issue. And the other thing is, like, this lifestyle, there's always, like, where I'm going to go next week, I'll be down in the Canaries, and I'll drop anchor. And because I have this setup where it's easy for people to hang out and be outside and be part of the...
Do you have, like, curtains where you can seal it to keep the weather out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so people come over to my boat. It's a very social place. Like, you might think,
yeah, I get that vibe.
It's like, you might think it's isolated, but it's not isolated at all. It's very community oriented. People will row up and they'll tie off their boat, other dinghies, and we'll have a party, and I cook all the time, and I make dinners, and we have the sound system on this thing is off the charts.
I wish I had like another half hour to an hour to talk to you about this, but I've got to wrap up because I got to get ready for this next call. But I wanted to ask you this: maintenance on a boat, because one of the things that really strikes me about the cruising lifestyle is whenever I'm watching videos on YouTube, shit always seems to be breaking. It's like it's like the motor's broke. Like I noticed in one of your videos, you had to pull out the motor and get it rebuilt. That cost 20 grand, put it back in. Like you basically have water makers, you have refrigeration, you're making electricity, you have to store electricity, you have sewage. It's a house on the water.
Yeah.
How much, like, within the course of a month, how much time do you spend every month maintaining the boat? Because I'm really curious about that.
Probably about 3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days straight.
Yeah, just over, not straight, but.
Does that include raising sails, lowering sails? Putting
no,
sails away?
No. This is just fixing stuff that has to be fixed. Like,
so you've got 3 or 4 days in a month that you're fixing shit constantly.
Yeah. You're always fixing something. And shit breaks all the time. Yeah. Oh fuck yeah.
So that's about 13% of your month you're spending fixing shit.
Yeah. You got to know how to fix stuff, and this keeps a lot of boats.
So I mean, like, you got to be a plumber, an electrician, general handyman,
or you pay people. Oh, there's plenty of guys that'll do it for a fee. It's not hard to find people to work on a boat if you're in these marinas.
Right.
But it's going to cost you, man. If you got a lot of money, I mean, hey, these big super yachts, guys just pay people to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, a 50-footer, is basically a one-man job if you're on it 3 to 4 days a week. Let me ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with solar-powered yachts, like companies like Solar Yachts and Aquion and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
What do you think of those? Like, does that solve much of the problem of maintenance plus, raising, lowering sails and waiting for weather?
No. In fact,
because I mean,
the only downside is this: it's hard to store enough energy to motor a long way.
Yeah, that's what I understand, because as I'm doing the research, like, it seems like if you want to cruise constantly, you're doing it at like less than 5 knots, maybe 3 or 4 knots, which is kind of pointless, right?
It's scary. It is pointless, and it's scary because if you get close to the shore, there's been a handful of times when I am so glad I have an engine. I was down in Morocco, man, and I was swinging into rocks. I was going to hit the rocks. And God damn it, you better have a great engine.
Right.
right now. Now, what if your batteries are low?
Right.
Like, no.
Well, those boats
So
have a generator on them,
you
like
have a
the diesel you
generator.
can turn
Okay.
on,
You
and then
can,
you can
yeah,
recharge the batteries if the sun's not giving you enough juice, if it's a
I love
cloudy
electric.
day.
I
Yeah.
love electric. It's that, nobody wants to carry diesel. It stinks. It gets
Yeah.
wet. You have to filter it. And the water filters all the problems with diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, we've had them forever and we still haven't solved all the problems with them.
Mm-hmm.
So electric, I would say double thumbs up. I would not poo-poo it. I think they're probably still in the learning phases.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're a purist, I'd say go for it.
How much of
And
your maintenance days would be cut off with a solar powered, like electric yacht? Would it go from 3 to 4 days down to 1 to 2, or 1 day, or is
no,
it
no,
still going to
no.
be
The
about three
engine
or four
isn't
days?
the
You think?
issue. No, no, no. The engine's not the problem. I never think about my engine,
Okay.
except when I replace it. I never think about it. No, it's all the little shit.
Water
Like,
maker, refrigerator, washer,
yeah,
dryer,
refrigerator,
just random
motor
stuff.
stops. This stereo, I've replaced it 3 times. The speakers corrode out.
Mm-hmm.
The wires get corroded. There's motors. These are motorized winches to pull. Those motors fail. The gearbox fails. The hinges. The under the water. The barnacles grow. You got to go and scrape it.
Scrub the bottom. You got to repaint it.
I spent an hour under the water 2 days ago scraping the bottom.
Do you do that
So
with scuba gear, or do you have to come up for air?
yeah. I got no. I mean, you could, but
And it
you
takes
would,
you an hour to scrub the bottom. Do you do it by hand, or do you have that
I by hand.
device
Yeah.
that spins around and
No,
scrubs
no,
it
no,
off
no.
for you?
Actually, I detailed the prop is what I did
Okay.
because I've been sitting for a while. So little barnacles
So
and you lose
barnacles
about a
collect on
knot.
it.
Yeah. So I scrub it and I take a bright pad, Scotch-Brite, just get it detailed and stuff like that. So
Okay, so here's a big
endlessly.
question then: is it all worth
Yeah.
it?
Oh fuck yeah! I mean, and that's one of my things. Mark Manson. Have you read Mark Manson stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has a chapter in there about fuck yeah.
Okay.
If it ain't fuck yeah, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's
yeah.
my dating profile now, by the way, too. And so does crazy shit, and to answer your question about does crazy shit happen more with women on boats than anywhere else? I don't think any more than anywhere else because it's people, one side of it is people are a little bit freaked out. I mean, you really have to have a good, honest, trusting relationship. But the girl's got to really, really, really trust you to come onto a boat because she's got nowhere to run. So you can't come onto them in a weird way, because then you don't want them to get so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, you really got to vet them too, because if you're going to do
Yeah.
like a 10-day passage, you don't want to be stuck on a boat with a whack job
Exactly,
either, right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
I interview the shit out of people, and that's something I've learned over the last few years. I don't think anything's gotten me better at learning about people than doing this,
Dude,
because of
I'm
being.
stoked.
Yeah, but it is bitching. You are going to love it, and I would absolutely, positively suggest you do it. So, and I don't know if I can give myself a plug.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we sign off, follow Duane's Instagram. Yeah. It's grateful_travel. He also has a YouTube channel, which is linked in his link tree, and some interviews, well, not interviews, but like some podcast recordings that he's done for himself. Is there anything else that you want to shout out to before we wrap up?
So I would love to have people on in the summer, and well, actually all during the year. And you can, I can take you or a group up to 5 people, and I'm going to do in the Canaries this summer. I'm going back to Greece, so if a bunch of guys or a couple of couples want to come on, give me a shout. I can give you the tour of a lifetime for a week.
How much does that cost for a week, roughly?
A couple grand a week.
I'm gonna take you up on that, man.
Yeah, it's a bargain. Relative, you go buy a boat and do it, you realize. But I just love doing it, right? This is not a retirement program for me. I mean, I'm retired, but
cool.
You will not make money doing this on a boat. But I just love having people on, the right people. I vet them out. So. And
the best way for them to find you is just to DM you through Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, guys. There you go. Duane, I really want to thank you for carving out some time and sharing your own personal story and, getting vulnerable on some of that shit, because that was some weird shit, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
And I mean, the light's fading, so it's not going to work for very long for us here anyway. But great story. Loved hearing about the sailing lifestyle. I will definitely stay in touch. If anybody wants to connect with you, find him on Instagram. And hey, if you want to sail the Mediterranean, He seems like a good guy. I'm certainly going to be open to it if I can travel soon. Thanks,
Okay.
brother.
Thanks a lot.